Hello, my name is Walter McGrory and this is Call of the Runes. Today we're going to talk about Sowilo, the last rune, the 8th rune of the second Ayat. The literal meaning here is sun, but phonetically this rune represents the letter S, or the S sound. Sowilo, as the 8th and final rune of the second Ayat, leads nicely within the theme that we've seen through the entire Ayat. The Ayat started with the hardships of ice, but it ends with the blazing sun. The sun is vital for all life, and it is the energy source for our world. It dispels the darkness, it allows us to see. The Norsemen would use the sun as a compass to navigate, and that means that it's no wonder that the sun was worshipped and celebrated worldwide, and the Nordic people were no exception. And with that, let us begin. The first rune poem is the Norwegian rune poem. Sun is the light of the world. I bow to the divine decree. The sun is the light of the world is self-explanatory. Generally, most cultures distinguish between three lights: the stars, the moon and the sun and the moon are often seen as a pair. Ahmad ibn Fadlan was a Muslim explorer who wrote a travel journal of his encounters in Russia. And from his journals we know that part of the worshipping practices of the Rus Viking traders was bowing down in front of idols and poles. Therefore the bow in the second line can represent either divine judgment, so we bow down to whatever the gods say that we must do, but it can also mean a more literal bow in the sense of sun worship. The Icelandic rune poem reads, Sun, shield of the clouds, and the shining ray, and the destroyer of ice. The sun and the moon are a set of twins called Sol and Mani. And in Nordic mythology, the sun is female and the moon is male, unlike most other mythologies in the world where the reverse is true. The first line in the Icelandic rune poem refers to Svalin, or his shield. According to myths, Svalin rides in a chariot with Sol, carrying a giant shield to protect the world from the full brunt of Sol's power. In Grimnismal, Odin states that if the shield were not there, so if Sol was not shielded, if the world was not shielded from Sol actually, the land would burn and the oceans would boil. This illustrates the natural balance that is often comes to the forefront in the sagas. Another example of this type of natural balance we can see in the stories about Thor. If Thor kills too many frost giants, this will lead to an unbearable heat and drought in Midgard. If Thor kills too many fire giants, this will lead to harsh winters. Both Thor and Sol represent an unfathomable potential. If their full power was unleashed, it would mean the end of the world. But they are tempered, they are measured. The second and the third line reference the sun's two greatest gifts, light and heat. Without light and without heat, the world would end, not just for the Nordic people, but for everybody. But if you live in the long dark nights of winter, it seems more dramatic. And it is not for nothing that, according to Grimnismal, the moon is chased by a wolf called Skul, he who betrays, and the sun by a wolf called Hati, he who hates. And when the wolves finally catch the sun and the moon, it will begin the beginning of Fimbulvetr, the 3 years winter that lead in the beginning of Ragnarok. So the end of the world, the world ends in fire, the end begins in ice. The Anglo-Saxon rune poem reads, The sun is ever a joy, in the hopes of the seafarer when they journey over the fish's bath, until the courser of the depth bears them to land. The Anglo-Saxon rune poem focuses on the sun as a guiding star. Before the compass was invented within Europe, sailors depended on the sun and the North Star to find their way across the open oceans. Even after the invention of the compass, compasses were not always readily available, so the sun and the North Star remained the only guides for many people for a long period of time. Today, we can't really do that anymore as accurately, because if you live in a city or near a city, there's a lot of what we call light pollution. The sky is so lit up that it's hard to see the stars in most places. Have you ever been to a place where the stars are well visible, where you can really get that feeling how it would have been to sit under an open night sky and look at the stars without the night pollution? Let me know where you have seen the most open sky of your life in the comments. In Charms and Amulets, we see Sowilo come back, or at least probably Sowilo come back. In Sigtryggsmal, where Sigurd gets taught about the runes by Brunhilde, the following verse is found. Wave runes learn. If thou wouldst shelter the sail steeds out on the sea, on the stem shalt thou write, and the steering blade, and burn them into the oars. Through the high be the breakers, and black the waves. Thou shalt save the harbour seek. This is stanzas 9. It's unclear what rune constitutes the wave runes. They are never disclosed, but if the Anglo-Saxon rune poem is any indication, Sowilo is probably among them. Another symbol associated with the sun is the solar wheel. This symbol is also strongly tied to Redo, as it represents the wheel of the chariot that pulls the sun. The symbol was used on runic charms to infuse the charm with more power, and for a more in-depth look at the solar wheel, you can look at the episode about Redo that we did earlier. Culturally, of course, it cannot be overstated how important the sun was for the Nordic people. In Alvismal, the dwarf Alvis and Thor are having a battle of wit. Part of an exchange goes as follows. Answer me, Alvis, says Thor. Thou knowest all, dwarf, of the doom of men. But what call they the sun, that all men see in each and every world? And Alvis spake, men call it the sun, gods call it orb of the sun. The deceiver of Dwalin, the dwarfs call it. The giants call it the ever-bright. And the elves call it fair wheel, or all glowing, or the sons of the god. Avesmaal 15 and 16. Thor asks about the natural phenomena, and we learn that the different races use different kennings. The dwarvish kenning is deceiver of Dvalin for the sun. Dvalin is a dwarvish name that appears several times throughout the sagas in various circumstances, and Dvalin is probably a very common, typical dwarvish name then. The sun is Dwalin's deceiver, or Dwalin's mockery, is another translation, because like some trolls, the subterranean dwarves are turned to stone if they are hit by sunlight. Ironically, that is Thor's plan all along. He keeps this role game going with Alvis until the sun rises and Alvis turns to stone. In conclusion, Sowilo is the blazing sun, strong and bright. It is a point to navigate by, a light to guide you, and a fire to warm you from afar. The sun's power is vast and impersonal, shining down on the 9 realms. Getting too close to the sun is to be overwhelmed by a force that is too great to handle. By itself, Sowilo is a clear path to victory, a shiny beacon leading to success, and a bright light that burns away all uncertainty. Combined with Isa, the ice rune, or Hagalas, the hail rune, it signifies that the new forces are at work, burning away the entropy. Inertia is about to be kicked into motion. Combined with Redo, the wagon rune, or Gera, the year rune, this might signify that you have reached or are about to reach the zenith. A comforting notion and simultaneously a warning, as the wheel will keep turning. Combination with Lagus, the lake rune, it could indicate that you're finding your way after being lost, or when combined with Dagas, the day rune, it signifies that the power of Sowilo is slowly going to manifest. That is the end of the chapter about Sowilo. If you liked this chapter, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to know more, everything I've said in any of these episodes, plus a lot more, is in Call of the Runes, available on Amazon. Link is down in the description. And it would really help this channel grow if you would also, if you like this video, share this on your own platforms. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.